Space Engine is an incredibly versatile tool that lets you view a lot of celestial bodies such as planets, stars, and galaxies, and the like. But like any versatile tool, it comes with a lot of options, which means it can be sort of confusing if you first pick it up. So I wanted to go through some of the basics of Space Engine, how to control the camera, find planets, and some interface and recording options, so that hopefully people who've picked it up for the first time can come across this video and be able to explore the majesty of the universe the same as any experienced space engineer. So let's go ahead and start with the basics. Turn our interface back on. I think this is pretty close to what you'll look at when you first open Space Engine for the first time. You got labels with the various planets. You can probably see the sun and the Earth. I'm not sure if it starts you off on some random planet, but that's beside the point for the time being. We'll go ahead and go through the various navigational controls that should be useful no matter where you are, even if you're nowhere near the Earth. So obviously I'm moving around. This is basic first-person controls, WASD. Move your camera forward, backwards, left, and right, obviously. And then if you want to have a little more control over the camera, you can use Q and E to rotate it, so that we can do, obviously, rotating while moving at the same time. And then beside those, R and F to go up and down. So basically those, how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those 8 keys are your basic movement keys. Of course, that's just for movement. Sometimes you need to control the camera. So when it comes time to move the camera, hold left click and then drag. So we've got our cursor, hold left click, and we're moving around. Simple as pie. You can also use the right click to orbit around objects, keeping them the center. However, I find myself doing this not very often because it messes with the momentum that you have while using WASD. So it's something generally that's meant to be used in isolation. Now, the only other thing really useful for navigation is, say, we wanted to visit that star right there. Alpharets, Syrah, etc., etc. All the information displayed up here on the left. Well, it's going to take us quite a long time at this speed. Quite a long time indeed. So you can use the mouse wheel to speed up and slow down. You see my velocity speeding up and slowing down. Then we can also hold control to go in big old chunks so it goes much faster. And whoop, don't want to pass him. Suddenly we are at the planet. Didn't take very long at all. Would have taken us literally years going the other speed, going at, 10 kilometers a second. So those are the basics of navigation. Knowing that, you should be able to do a lot in Space Engine. The only thing I didn't mention that I feel is probably self-explanatory is you click on a star to get its details. The cursor will hover around it, etc., etc. You know that already. So it doesn't look like it, but Space Engine also comes with an array of sidebars on the sides of the screen, but they're hidden, so you have to mouse over them first, which means you kind of have to know where they are. So there's one on the right, there's one on the bottom right, there's one on the bottom left, there's one on the left screen of the bottom left, and I think that's it, right? Not finding any more sidebars? Yeah. So we're going to go through all the different sidebars piece by piece and talk about what all the different things do. So let's start with the bottom left or the right. Let's start with the bottom left. It covers sort of what we already know. So these are our speed controls. You can speed up time. You see the time scale passing much faster than normal time. And then you can, of course, use this to slow down time. And you can use the check mark to set it to normal time. 1 times time scale. And now, because we're at some random, what is this, the year 127,135, August 25th, it's almost my birthday. Let's speed up time a little bit. Well, we missed my birthday. Well, never mind. Anyway, so we just click this button to go, boom, right back to 2015, right back to present time, whatever your computer's present time is set to, which isn't necessarily the current present time, but that's beyond our scope at the moment. So you can also pause time. Not totally necessary, because usually, celestially, a lot of objects are basically paused at 1 times normal speed, but it may come into play when you're dealing with really, really small objects or when you are working with spacecrafts, but we'll get into that later. So we talked about velocity. These are the velocity buttons we just talked about. This is basically the same as holding control and using the mouse wheel. Now we can move, or we can slow it down. And of course, there is no standard speed because there is no universal constant speed except for light speed. So let's just go ahead and set it to that. 1c. That is the speed of light constant. Move it on over a little bit, and then you have the different camera modes. So for this, we're going to find a random planet. Let's stick back to Earth because it's recognizable. A random planet. We'll go to Earth, and now this is basically the camera control types. So we've been doing this whole time on free mode, which means basically if I'm holding W, I move forward, and when I let go of W, I stop moving forward. We're still moving at light speed, remember? Oh, I guess we're not moving at light speed anymore. I don't know what happened. Yeah, that did seem strange to me, moving so slow to Earth. I don't know what I was thinking. And then if you wanted to change that a little bit, say mimic the fact that there's no friction in space, you can go to spacecraft mode. Now, remember, actually, let me go back for a second. We'll go back to free mode. By the way, this is also done with 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3 switches between these three things. So I generally do that without even opening these sidebars. And once you get better with Space Engine, you will basically learn the hotkeys to every single one of these buttons. So you're never even using these sidebars because, like I said, it's versatile. So you can make a hotkey for basically anything, which makes it a lot more just smoother. Anyways, so on free mode, you'll notice if I have the camera, I can, shake the mouse while I hold click. I shake the mouse that way, and it's pretty jerky. So if we switch it over to spacecraft mode and I shake the mouse, oh, it's much less jerky, and then I let go, and then I retain the momentum that I had at the moment that I let go. And of course, I can constantly go back and forth and just pick up the pace. Sorry if you dizzy easily, but we can just do that. So let's find the Earth again. Stop, and again, I just hit 1, to just kill all my momentum right there. Go back to spacecraft mode, and now we'll talk about actual momentum. So say in free mode, you're moving towards the Earth, you let go of W, and then you stop moving. In spacecraft mode, you move towards the Earth, you let go, and we're still moving. Oh god. Oh, we're going in, we're gonna crash. Ah! So that's how spacecraft mode works for keeping momentum when visiting planets. Real beautiful ocean right here. Reflection of the sun and whatnot. So that's really nice if you want to get shots of, say, looking over the ocean like this, passing under the clouds. You keep our momentum in this direction while you turn the camera, and you can do whatever you want. Let's look at that cloud right here as it passes. Woo! It just goes on by. So basically, you can set your momentum up and turn your camera. It leaves for some really good opportunities of getting cinematic style shots. And that's basically how to work with this. You can, obviously do it with the other buttons. We can be rotating, we can be sidestepping, we can be going downwards, and it can all get quite confusing and hard to control. So I generally use it in only short bursts, and then sometimes you rotating and control, just hold X to just kill your rotation. Comes a little bit easier to manage. So then the last one, number 3 over here, is aircraft mode. Kind of similar to spacecraft mode, except you don't maintain the momentum. You still maintain momentum. Like, we'll do this and release click. Look at that. We're still turning just as if that happened. But now, with aircraft mode on, it basically mimics a plane, a jet in the atmosphere. So if we move forward in aircraft mode and then turn the camera, we continue going forward, so we are no longer going to crash into the Earth just by turning. Whereas if we had done the same thing in spacecraft mode, aim, fall, turn, we're still falling. We don't want that. So aircraft mode basically gives you the ability to mimic an aircraft in the atmosphere by always maintaining forward momentum. I cannot see a time when you would ever use this mode without using forward momentum. Like, using sideways momentum is just sort of a pain. Now we're always going sideways. It kind of could be cool for some rotatey shots, I guess, looking at the Earth like that. But, so those are the 3 movement modes. I'm always switching back and forth between those for cinematic purposes. Now, I have used a shortcut in this video already to get to Earth, but this is where you get the actual button to do so. These are basically your instant move commands. So this controls how fast you move, this controls how you move, and this basically gives you shortcuts of where you want to move. So we've got the Earth selected, we know because it's up here, by clicking on the Go To button. And in fact, let's hold Control and mouse wheel and go to a random spot somewhere in the galaxy. Yeah, we're way outside the galaxy right now. We just crank the speed way up instantly. And then it still says following Earth. We've still got Earth selected. We'll click on the Go To button, and then it will just take us right where we have selected, right back to Earth. We can do that with anywhere. We can click on this star. Look at that. We've got the Orion, some Orion object over there. Click go to, and we are zoomed in on this star. That's a big star. It's so lumpy. What's the mass on that? Oh, it doesn't matter right now. I get so distracted. This one is the land on object. So again, let's find Earth, and I'll go over these interfaces that I'm doing later on, but right now it's a bit outside of our scope. So we'll find the land on object, and I'm pretty sure you know what that does. You click on it, and nice soft landing right on the Earth. Look at all the water moving. That's fairly self-explanatory. These two are less self-explanatory. It's kind of hard to explain them. I will do my best. I may fail. So this is center object. So we can click on, say, a random object, a random star over here, and then click on center, and suddenly the camera centers to it. Now, no matter where we move the camera, that star is always going to be in the center. No, it's not. Just kidding. Don't listen to me. I'm thinking of tracking. Center is basically just a one-off deal. You just click it, and it's center. See, we're still following Earth. But what you can do is you can track an object by clicking this button. We see it now. Yeah, by clicking this button, and now it is always the center, no matter where we go or what we do. This is kind of confusing momentum-wise how this works, so I don't really know how to explain it, but basically, it's always being tracked. I'm still, yeah, okay, so we're still following Earth, but tracking this one. Again, I'm not great with those. It's probably more meant for the type of thing where you're able to track a star from Earth. So as we speed up time over here, we will always be looking at that star no matter what direction Earth turns, and using another star is kind of a bad example of this. So let's find someone else in the solar system here. Let's pause, unplay, go back in time. There we go. We got the moon right there. So like I said, let's pause time. So again, you use spacebar to do that. Select the moon. And now, by tracking the moon, which we are tracking, correct? There we go. Now we're always watching the moon go over the night sky. So that makes a little bit more sense how tracking works. It's different from following. It's different from landing, which is how you can be following Earth and tracking the moon. We spent way too long on tracking. Let's move on. So that covers that bar. Now we'll go over to the sidebar over here. We have exposure and magnitude limits. This is basically your lighting options. It's generally not the type of thing you use when... Oh, now my camera's all flubbed up because I was tracking something. This is a really terrible camera. Can I reset my No? Okay, let's go ahead and select the moon. And then retrack him. There, I have to restart this program. This is like, I don't know if this is a bug or what, but because I was tracking the moon, now this is what happens when I hold forward. I'm going this weird direction, so I gotta restart the program. Okay, we've got our normal forward momentum back. That makes more sense. Now, these are basically lighting options. So magnitude is basically going to improve the visibility of individual stars. So, or nope, I have that backwards. Exposure is going to, let's not look at the sun when we do this. When we increase magnitude, suddenly individual stars start looking brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter. We start seeing more of them because ones that are previously black are brighter, and now, oh my god, it's just so bright. Even the program has trouble loading stars like that, so we'll reset it by clicking the button in the center. Of course, we can go down, see less stars, less planets, etc., etc. Exposure basically just improves the overall brightness of everything. So say you wanted space to be really bright, but you wanted the stars to be really dim, you could increase your exposure, lower your magnitude. Frankly, I think this looks quite ugly, but, you know, whatever floats your boat. You can play with those options as much as you want. You can even open the gear settings to change them manually if you're really looking for a perfect shot or a perfect look, but I generally don't play with these because the program itself does a really good job of automatically adjusting them. And there's a way of making them not automatically adjust, but I don't really use that often. So now we'll get to the second to last sidebar option. Most of the buttons on this sidebar are in relation to seeing certain things. And let me try and get the camera set up in such a way that we can see most of what we're talking about here. I'm trying to zoom out so we can see more of the Milky Way, and I'm just dumb because that's never going to happen. Let's just decrease the field of view a little bit. And there we go. So now we see a lot of things in this view. Let's even get closer to the Earth so we can see more things. Alrighty. So now, this basically turns off galaxies. So we got the Milky Way back here in the corner. We can turn that off and suddenly, boop, all gone. Can no longer see the galaxy. Of course, in real life, a galaxy is just a cluster of stars. It makes no sense. We're just turning off stars. But because it's software, it's basically rendered this galaxy as a separate thing. So that's what happens when you turn off galaxies. The next one is stars. This will turn off all the stars in the sky. And of course, our sun is a star. So you turn it off and suddenly all the stars are all gone. The next one is clusters. Do we even have any visible clusters? We do not. I don't know if there's any clusters visible from Earth with this field of view at the moment. So I don't think that's one we can illustrate too easily, but we're just not going to worry about that for the time being. Let's see if we can find the Earth again. Where'd you go, Earth? There we go. Somehow it's on the other side now. I don't know how that happened. But there are just clusters of stars that turns that off and on. The next one is nebulae. So you see a nebula right there. You can see a little one right back there. We turn those off and suddenly all gone. Yes, looks like those just these two. Next one is planets. I think you know what that does. Next one is comets. I don't think we have any comets visible right now. The next one is atmosphere. So the Earth is going to change, look way different. Turn off atmosphere. Looks way uglier. The next one is clouds. Looks very different. The next one is water. Liquid water is no longer present. The next one is the auroras. We can kind of see the aurora, but not super. Oh, now we get a nice good view of the aurora. The next one is auroras, so we'll turn this off and suddenly all gone. So that's how you can change the different looks of various things. Now, those are basically just graphical pretty stuff. You can also change these things that tend to help with navigation. So this is the orbits button. Click on the orbits, you can see the orbit of everything. You can even see the shared orbit of the Earth and the Moon as this little red dot right here. Little tiny orbit. Where's the Moon hiding at? Right up here is the orbit of the Moon. And of course, we use the mouse wheel, zoom out even further, see the orbits of all the planets, etc., etc., etc. So that's pretty cool. We're going to... Ooh, should we skip ahead? Let's not skip ahead quite yet. We'll come back to orbits in a minute. Now, this is the dots. We can see some of the other markers of random objects in our Milky Way or outside anywhere else. So that's a Chiron asteroid, disturbingly close to Charon, which is Pluto's twin. We've got random asteroids right here as all these various markers. Turn off the markers. We can turn off labels. Actually, by clicking labels once, you turn them on. By clicking it twice, you turn it to detailed labels, so it shows the distance of each one from us. And then by clicking it again, it turns it back off. So that one actually sort of cycles through some options. I think orbits doesn't... Yeah, orbits should cycle through options, but it doesn't. This one is simply the selection pointer, so we'll go back down to Earth by mashing G a bunch of times, so we'll just get there really, really quickly. Or this guy, this asteroid, I guess. Zoom out far enough that we can actually see the selection pointer, and that's all this does. Just turns the selection pointer on and off. The next one is our velocity vector. This is where one I tend to turn off for my shots that I really should use more often, but it's a very, very useful tool. So in free mode, the velocity vector is pretty self-explanatory. It's, you know, forward. We're going forward at exactly our speed. We've got the speed 702.48, and that's what we look at right here, 702.48. Kind of hard to really find a use for that in free mode. But if we switch over to something like spacecraft mode, suddenly our velocity vector... Oh, we're just going way too fast. Use the mouse wheel to turn it down. Turn it up a little bit so we can get back. Okay. Going towards the Earth at a decent pace here. So now we're going there. We can change these numbers by using the mouse wheel to change how our speed goes. Let's see if we can drop this thing down to 9. Down to 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. There we go. So we're going towards the Earth at 25 kilometers per second. This is just forward and backwards. Now, if we use, you know, WASD to move A, now this tells us when we're going sideways, or we use R to go up. And basically, that is where we will land if we do nothing else. So the velocity vector is always pointing in the direction that your ship is traveling. Quite a useful tool for using spacecraft mode, because it's pretty hard without it to know exactly where you're going to end up. It just kind of looks like we're rotating and not seeing anything. But since we know the velocity vector is pointing right there, that is where we will eventually crash down onto the Earth at. Really, really useful tool. The next one is the grid. This is basically what you can use to find certain stars and constellations that you've looked up in Wikipedia. At least that's what I do anyway. So say we know that a certain star, a certain constellation happens to be at 40 degrees 22H. So we go to 22 hours right here, 40 degrees right there, and we look around roughly in that region. Now we've reached the bottom end of this thing. The only thing I want to talk about with navigation, I don't think there's any shortcut buttons for it on the side. What I find pretty useful is page up and page down controls your field of view. So you can basically zoom in on stuff. You can also use mouse wheel to look at something and then have it reset back to where it was looking. That's by pressing down mouse 3, but I really honestly almost never use that. So we'll turn the grid off. Again, that's useful for Wikipedia because almost every constellation or star on Wikipedia shows this grid, so it's really nice for finding stuff. So when you look up Andromeda in Wikipedia, it'll probably tell you that it's, between, it'll probably say it's, 45 minutes and then 39 degrees. So we go 39 degrees, 45 minutes, boop, look at that, Andromeda, chilling, creeping, always trying to crash into us. Should be like way bigger if you could see all the various stars, but from Earth's point of view. Anyways, so now we go down to the settings menu. A lot of these settings are what we just saw. By turning off galaxies, you no longer see the galaxy, but then you always have the option of catalog or procedural. Catalog is basically ones we know exist. For example, we know the Milky Way exists, so we turn off catalog and we can no longer see galaxies that we know exist. Same with Andromeda hiding back there. Procedural is basically ones that Space Engine has generated to fill in the gaps of what we do not know. Around Earth, it's going to be really hard to find any gaps in our knowledge because humans have been observing the sky for thousands and thousands of years. But if we go to a random star in the Milky Way, let's zoom all the way out and then pick a random point a little bit further away. And now, let's even turn off this grid because it's getting all up in my business. Now, if we want to turn off catalog stars, and in fact, let's even face Earth if we can. If we want to face, we'll turn off catalog stars, and you can see a few of them go missing. This is an example. This is one that goes missing. No catalog stars. That's a star that we know exists in real life. Again, we're like halfway across the galaxy, so it's hard for our actual telescopes to view this far. So Space Engine fills in the gaps with procedural stars. Turn off the procedural stars, and boom! The sky looks way, way emptier. Anything remaining, all the stars that we see left, these little dots here and there, those are the ones that we actually have confirmed the existence about. And notice it gets way thicker with stars the closer we get to Earth because we know about all these stars. Go further away and suddenly we got this empty blotch, and almost every other star we know about out here is going to be a really, really bright giant or a cluster or a nebula, because individual stars are just pretty hard to see this far away from our telescopes. We turn procedural stars back on, the sky fills way up. Nebula, obviously, off and on. Catalog, off and on. This looks like a nebula, but this is actually a galaxy. Doop, turn that off. Yeah. Without seeing Milky Way, it's nothing. So these are the large and small Magellanic Clouds. They're just chilling right outside of our Milky Way, so they don't actually count as nebula. They're like little baby galaxies. They're like non-spiral galaxies. And this is... I thought I saw something around here. Anyway, so that's how all that works. Let's go back to our system where stuff is familiar to go over the rest of this stuff. So we've got comet tails, atmosphere, clouds, water, aurora. We've already went over that, most of it, down over here. And now we can basically fine-tune exactly what type of orbits we want to see. So we'll find the sun, get a nice big view of this, and you realize how many objects are actually in our system when we turn on something like asteroids. It looks pretty self-explanatory. You've got a few bodies all the way up to Pluto and Eris and Makemake, all the weird ones. But if you turn on asteroids, suddenly, whoosh, we get this horrendous cluster of stuff. All these asteroids in our system. And if you wanted even more of a cluster, you can turn on comets, and suddenly, just a massive cluster of little tiny bodies all throughout the solar system. This is one of those things that makes you realize that the definition of a planet really is just completely obscure. It's like, at what size does one of these random objects classify as a planet? Can we even find an individual one of these? Let's see if we can find... All right, there's a comet right there. We can see... And by the way, you can tell where the brightness meets the lightness on this orbit is where the actual comet is at. little Catalina comet. Smash G to zoom in on this guy. We can see this little, what's the diameter? This little 3-kilometer comet way out here in space. Totally invisible from the naked eye, obviously, because it's super dim. But that is the way you can fine-tune orbits, and you've got all these other options for fine-tuning the orbits as well. So we'll turn off asteroids and comets. Turn off asteroids and comets. And that basically controls all of your orbit visualization. That covers the right sidebar. We're just working with the very last sidebar now. So this is all your different menus and stuff. This is the graphics menu. I'm pretty sure you know how this works, you know, graphical options. This is the display settings, full screen, windowed, stuff like that. And this one, kind of fun. This is basically the locations setting. It comes preset with a bunch of really cool locations, so you can just click on one and hit go to, and suddenly, boop, look at that. Real pretty sight. And since we're on to the pretty sights, we'll go ahead and turn off orbits and mention the one, actually 2 ways to really get good footage. So you can press 11 to take a screenshot, writing a screenshot just like that. Or you can press F9 to record a video. Now, I'm not going to actually do that because it messes with fraps, but that gets to my next point. I actually don't use Space Engine's video recording, built-in recording, very often because it really slows Space Engine down. I think it tries to really capture it in a very lossless format. So what I do when I'm actually capturing footage is I use fraps just like I am right now. I hold the mouse to make the pointer invisible, and then to hide the interface, and this is probably the least intuitive thing here, hold Control and press tilde, and it turns the interface off. Now we're looking at a nice, beautiful view. So if we switch over to spacecraft mode, give ourselves a little bit of forward momentum, turn the mouse to look like this, and you've got, look at that, that's just a beautiful shot. Just right there. All it is, you know, hiding the interface, holding the mouse, and we're just using fraps, just talking right now. So go back to normal mode, bring the interface back up. I've literally never seen a difference between full and brief interface. I know you can turn on lots of other options in the console, and the numpad, I believe, is another way of showing yeah, like that. So I think even that, yeah, no, brief full makes no difference. So this is asterisk on the numpad. I don't expect you to know any of that stuff right now, or know what any of that stuff means. I don't know what any of that stuff means. And I am not moving for some reason. I do not know why. Oh, I have managed to go into edit mode. I do not want to go into edit mode. Let's change that. There we go. There we go. We'll find Earth again. And as long as we're talking about keyboard shortcuts, yeah, you know what, never mind. We'll get to this in just a second. So that's Location Manager. You can go to all sorts of neat preset locations. I'll leave you to explore most of these on your own. But you can also add your own location. Say you found a really cool spot. Let's visit the Carina Nebula over here. Whee! And let's visit within the Carina Nebula one little white luminous supergiant. I guess it's not really within it. It looked like he was within it. And then we'll get in nice and close, get a real sweet view right here. Once again, open up the Locations Manager, and we can click Add Star AOI 10. Let's just looking at Star, looking at Carina. And there we go. So now whenever we want to go to the spot, we can just open up our tab, start looking at Carina, hit go to, and there we go. So you can add your own. This one is the journey log. This tells us where we've been in the past, so we can find out the last place we went to was the Carina Nebula. Place before that was Earth. Place before that was that comet that we checked out, so we can really quickly go back to that comet. And boop, there we are, right back at the sky. And if you want to hit tab, you can bring that up really easily, get to Earth, hit go to, and we are popped around right back at the Earth. So the next one is the Spacecraft Manager. I'm only going to briefly gloss over it because spacecrafts are, I could do a whole hour video on spacecrafts. But if you want to like build one and play around with it, you hit build, you select what type you want to build. Let's go ahead and click the Dragonfly, build. Suddenly, now we've got a spacecraft out here in space. Looks like some sort of weird alien dragonfly spacecraft type situation. So we can reopen the spacecraft manager, fire dragonfly, hit take control, and you've got a host of all these ship options. You can control the main engines, the retro engines, the thrusters. You can change what way you want it to orbit the body it has selected, whether or not you want to use hyperdrive or jump drive, etc., etc. Like I said, I'm not going to go over it. It's a huge, complicated mess of stuff that is fun, no doubt, but it serves not much of a purpose in an overall Space Engine tutorial. So this one is what you've seen me use a lot. This is Find Object. You can also press F3 to use this. Basically, you find object, type in sun, and then you've got the sun selected. Once you have it selected, obviously, you press G to go to it. Pretty self-explanatory. So F3 is how you bring that up. Hit in Earth, mash on G, and then we are going to Earth. That's generally how I get to a lot of places. The next one is the star browser. I actually haven't used this much, and I really need to because it's really fun. Say we want to find a planet. We should probably go to a different galaxy for this. So let's check out Andromeda. Basically, I want to be working with stars that are all procedurally generated, because we're going to be looking for life, and of course we don't know where life is outside of our solar system, or even anywhere in the universe, except Earth. But so we're basically working with like fictional stuff out here. This is all just procedurally generated. So now that we're out this far, we can open up the star browser, and then say search radius of, I don't know, this star right here, RS1186, and then look within 100 light years of that star, and it'll tell us every single star that's within 100 light years of that star. It's basically generating all this stuff right now. So within 100 light years, we'll click on life, and now we see all the planets, all the systems that have life in them. This one right here, whoever this is, this red dwarf, has 4 bodies with life on it. It could be moons or planets or whatever, but it's, oh, 6 now? You got 6 bodies with life? Let's go to that one. Why not? What are the chances of that? So this system has 6 bodies. It looks like it's a binary system of sorts. What's my speed at? Looking at normal speed. So this basically star browser. Obviously you can look for way more with life. You can look for planets and stars and how bright they are right now. Or to the Earth. I'm not sure what apparent magnitude stands for from Earth or where we are. Luminosity, distance, and the star class. Lots of different options for finding stuff. It's a really fun tool that I want to play around with more often. So next to that, we have the planetary system menu. This is where a lot of work gets done for me finding life. So this will select every body that's parented. Let's turn on orbit so this makes more sense. Every body that is parented to the selection. So right now, our selection is the center of these 2 stars. And it looks like there's 2, actually multiple bodies. These must be brown dwarfs? Frozen gas giants? Yeah, these are way, way, way out there, just outside of the star system. This is a fun system. So, of course, we've got our 2 suns, which are surely hosting most of the life. Wait, no, this is saying there's life out here on this frozen titan? There's a marine and terrestrial exotic multicellular life at a negative 184 degrees Celsius. This is really far away from the sun. I don't even know what the distance for this. This is like 542, maybe like 200. Yeah, this is about 281 times the distance from the Earth to the sun. From that. Anyways, that's really far away. So you can right-click on any one of these to get an expanded view of the different stuff inside it. So we've got this star right now. We can see that this star has a couple of planets inside of it. By right-clicking on it, we're now looking at all the different planets inside the star. And of course, you don't even have to be looking at them. This is just our little shortcut menu. And it looks like A3 here is a temperate Terra with life. It says it has 1 moon. So if you want to check out that moon, we right-click. Right-click, and I guess it's not counting that moon for some reason. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's a dwarf moon, and it's not included as part of the star browser. So that's a fun thing. If you want to go back on this thing, just right-click on the parent, and then we can select the other star over here. Click on, say, this guy, a cool ice giant. This has 7 moons, 1 with life, so surely we'll right-click on that. Now we can see, you know, this is the parent, and this is the one with life. Temperate, desert with life, organic, multicellular, terrestrial. Definitely a much more habitable environment than the one we were looking at earlier. So generally, that's what I use this menu for. F2 opens and closes this thing. That's what I use, you know, much more often in the star browser. And then the next one is a lot of fun. I don't know what purpose it serves, but system chart basically organizes. It's like the only thing that actually, instead of viewing planets, it actually like moves them. So we'll click on the system chart. Suddenly, everything in that system, this planet and all of its moons, are being organized just for us to look at in a nice linear order. Everything from the star all the way to the tiniest little objects and comets down the line. There's a lot of rings in this system. So this is pretty fun to look at. However, it's more fun to look at on Earth because there's actually objects we recognize. So we'll keep the star, what is this thing called again? The system chart open. I guess we just closed it. Interesting. Anyways, reopen the system chart, and then now we've got the Earth, and Neptune, and Sun, and everything just lined up back to back, belly to belly, so you can see the relative sizes of everything in the system. Really, really fun tool, and if you really wanted to see things even smaller, you can see we got Hayaka way out here. You can lower the minimum diameter to even smaller, and let's zoom out so we can just see this thing growing. I'll make it as small as possible. So basically every single body in the solar system is visible from this thing. It's really fun to like glide along these at super fast speed. But like I said, not sure what actual purpose this serves. Let's go ahead and turn off labels. There we go. And we can fly along this group right here. And it just makes really neat size comparisons. Anyways, I'm still playing around with that, obviously. The next one is the star map. I don't use this one super often. A lot of other people do. I'm not a big fan of the controls within the star map. It's this other menu, you can see the sun, Mercury, and whatnot. Zoom out even further, and you get a decent... Are we moving? No? Sometimes a little bit moving. And you control the slider. You can see the entire universe out here. Down here you can see the planet. Basically, it's everything scaled to fit within a little sphere right here. So it could be nice during times when there's Uranus around, or Uranus, whatever the kids are calling it these days. But you can also, at that point, you may as well just use the star browser, I think. So I don't really know what the point of the map is. The next one is the wiki. Basically, it'll tell you information about anything that you want to know, info, general, physical, orbital. The things in our solar system have way more information than things outside of our solar system, obviously. And the very last option is the main menu. So I think that covers the basics of Space Engine. Actually, that covers more than the basics. If you've watched this and taken everything in, it should hopefully be pretty obvious how easy it is to work with everything in Space Engine. So we'll end by building a really quick, really neat shot. Let's get Venus, kind of a boring planet. Look at that nice, boring, smooth atmosphere. Let's turn off orbits, turn off interface, switch to spacecraft mode, hold the mouse button, give ourselves a little bit of momentum, a little bit of spin, and we will end it right there. So I hope you guys learned something from this tutorial. Definitely a really neat program. I really recommend checking it out. I have the address memorized. It's just en.spaceengine.org. En stands for English because it's written in English. You should strongly consider donating if you really like this program, because I really do. And that being said, I will talk to you guys later.